What are you looking at, man? What do you see? I can't see anything, man. You know, life is just gonna go away, man. It's just gonna pass. You get old. You gotta do something productive with your life, you know? Something that you can be proud of. Something your future generation can reap benefits of. Who said that? Anyway, do something! Hello and welcome to another episode of Gadgets and Gizmos. My name is Gaurav, and while Rohit is busy producing some electricity, this is what we have produced for you in this week's episode. But in case you were wondering what was I doing in Malaysia last week, well, I was there not to inaugurate, but to attend the Samsung Forum 2016. They launched a couple of smartphones, and we also got to see the soon-to-be launched Samsung Galaxy Tab Pro S. Samsung Forum 2016, an annual event where Samsung shows off its dominance in the market and their new product lineup for the year and how they will continue to dominate because they listen to consumers. I don't know about the numbers, but that television looks awesome. Just look at the bright and curved display. This is what I want, but I still can't afford it. Anyway, so beside the television, Samsung also showcased their smart 5-in-1 refrigerator, add washing machine which lets you add laundry while the washing is still on, and there were air conditioners and that hot blast microwave oven. Samsung offers you everything, and of course, Samsung launched two new smartphones, A5 and A7 2016 in its A series. Samsung A5. Now it gets a more refined design with glass and metal combination. The 5.2-inch Super AMOLED display looks bright as ever. The phone weighs around 153 grams and it feels quite sturdy. Both the phones are dual SIM and support 4G. There's also a fingerprint scanner for unlocking your phone and giving you that much needed security. You got a 13MP rear camera and a 5MP front camera, and both the cameras have f1.9 aperture that allows you to capture bright and clear images in low light conditions as well. The camera also comes with optical image stabilization to ensure blur-free photography, and the initial results looked good. The phone is powered by 1.6 GHz octa-core processor and 2GB of RAM, and there is 16GB internal storage that can be expanded via microSD card. You get a 2900 mAh battery and there is quick charging as well. The A5 is priced at 24,400 rupees. The Galaxy A7 2016 on the other hand is a little bigger with a 5.5-inch screen size and Super AMOLED display. You get the same 13MP rear and 5MP front camera along with image stabilization. The A7 is also powered by a 1.6 GHz octa-core processor, and the RAM has been bumped up to 3GB with an expandable 16GB internal storage. There's 3300 mAh battery with fast charging, and the phone is priced at 33,400 rupees. The phones look good for sure, but the price is a bit higher, we feel. Of course, we'll review the phone in the coming weeks before we pass our judgment. And oh yes, we also got to see the Samsung's upcoming tablet, the Galaxy Tab Pro S. It's their first Windows tablet and it looks ready to compete with the Windows Surface line. It gets that detachable keyboard if you notice. However, unlike the Surface, that keyboard comes in the box, and unlike the Surface, the stylus doesn't. This is the thinnest and the lightest Windows 10 tablet right now. The 12-inch Super AMOLED display looks fantastic. It's bright, colorful, and you get great viewing angles. Under the hood, the Tab Pro S has an Intel Core M processor, 4GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. It also comes equipped with GPS and NFC chips. The Tab Pro S will be available in Wi-Fi and LTE versions and should be launched around April this year. The Samsung has not yet announced the pricing. Well, some people, just because they're fair, they think that they don't need to take a bath. I'm talking about Sahil in particular. Yeah, he's busy watching TV. We have a budget television for you from a company called Meza, which costs only around 10,000 rupees. Amazing, huh? Let's see if it's worth it.
The things I do for work. Here I am, totally comfortable and snugly on this comfy chair and moda and playing Xbox. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I do for work. But everyone is not like me. They don't get access to the latest and greatest gadgets for work. For most people, at least in India, a basic tech requirement is a relatively decent big screen TV. That's a basic requirement. But if they look at the biggies, I mean Sony, Samsung and LG, those TVs are kind of expensive and out of their reach. So this new company, Macer, sent their new 32-inch TV. And in all honesty, it's not too bad. And at around about 10,000 rupees is kind of affordable. So let's find out if this TV can find a home in most Indian homes. 32 inches at around about 11,000 rupees is almost unheard of, and it definitely is one of the cheapest 32-inch screens you can buy in the market, which is great because we Indians love our big screens, and this is a relatively big screen. Also, the picture quality is not too bad. It doesn't get fuzzy, which is very important, and the colors and the contrast are pretty good, which is kind of amazing considering the price. And more importantly, it comes with a plethora of ports. You get 2 USB ports, you get 2 HDMI ports, you even get a VGA port, which is just amazing in the case you want to connect multiple devices to your big screen. Do you know what's the screen resolution of this tiny phone that I'm holding? It's 1080p, and that's the resolution most phones have these days in the market. And here we have this TV. It's a 32-inch screen and it just has a HD resolution, which is kind of criminal, and it's definitely underwhelming, and I can assure you it's not future-proof, which is something you must know before buying this TV. And as is the case with most flat-paneled screens, the sound quality is pretty bad. So I'll advise you to buy a separate set of speakers while buying this TV, even if you want a decent level of audio quality. And while it has a USB port behind where you can put a USB pen drive to watch movies and view content, most movies we tried didn't work because most formats aren't supported by this TV. And finally, the placement of all those HDMI and USB ports is kind of horrendous, because if you try to place the TV like this, then it's almost inaccessible, which is very bad, obviously. But if you wall mount it, then things become a little easier, but still it's kind of not ergonomic. But still, despite all these flaws, getting this screen size, this kind of picture quality for around about 11,000 rupees is kind of insane, and it's really good. And this TV definitely has potential. If you want to buy it though, you can't buy it from the market, you'll have to order it online. That's something you'll need to keep in mind.
This week we are reviewing the S6, not Samsung but Gionee. They're out with their new mid-range smartphone. And here is still dirty and shabby Sahil telling us all about it.
I don't need to say this, but as you can see, I'm still lazing around and I'm pretty snuggly. But the difference is now my interest has moved on from the big screen to something more intimate. And of course, I'm talking about a smartphone, and here I have Gionee's latest phone, which is called the S6, not to be mistaken with the Samsung Galaxy S6. And Gionee claims this is a phone which has got a really top-notch design, high-end design, for less than rupees 20,000 rupees. But the thing is, Indian market is full of some great smartphones with some great design and power-packed features for less than 20,000 rupees. So let's find out if this phone can actually rise above the rest. As you'd imagine, the main USP of this phone is its design. 89% of this phone is built out of metal, which means it's supremely sturdy and sexy to look at. While doing so, it's also 6.9 mm thin, which makes it quite handy to hold considering its large screen. And overall, it looks like a super-sized iPhone 5S, which isn't a bad thing because you get a similar camera placement. You also get metal chamfers, which are really nice to look at. It also has the USB Type-C connector, which is the latest type of connector, which supports fast charging and is relatively future-proof. The phone has 32 GB of internal storage and also a micro SD card slot, something which you don't find often on phones these days. While doing all of this, Gionee has managed to pack in a relatively large 3100 mAh battery, which should be good to last you a day pretty consistently. The big problem with this phone is that it is running relatively outdated specs. By that I mean it's running a pretty old MediaTek processor. Yes, it's an octa-core processor, there's 3 GB of RAM, but the performance is just about decent. And even if you look at this display, it's a 5.5-inch display, but you only get a HD resolution, which basically means that the screen is lacking in terms of sharpness and also possibly a bit of vividness. And this rear camera on the back, it's a 13 megapixel shooter, which is fine in daylight, but it stumbles in low light situations. And yes, this phone comes with 32 GB of storage, but the phone is loaded to the brim with crapware, which means there are lots of applications that are pre-installed on the phone, which you may or may not need. Overall, I'd suggest that you can give this phone a skip because there are phones like the Lay Echo 1S and the Moto X Play, which will give you a wildly better bang for your buck.
It's good to see people getting a little serious about fitness. For us geeks, it starts with downloading an app, and nowadays we are buying fitness bands. That's exactly what Rohit has decided to do. And here is Rohit with his review of the Portronics fitness band. Let's see if it has made any difference in his life.
The Yoke Band is a wearable that looks pretty similar to the Fitbit Charge or the Nike Fuel Band on first impressions. But unlike either of those fitness bands, this one will cost you just about rupees 2,000. In fact, much of the review will be based on the fact that this is a comparatively cheaper alternative to the Jawbones and the Fitbits of the world. The real question is how it holds up when compared to other cheap fitness trackers like the Mi Band or the YouFit. When it comes to design, it feels sturdy. More importantly, it doesn't feel cheap. On some occasions, it may actually get away with looking like an accessory on your wrist. The watch also feels comfortable to wear on the hand, and it doesn't feel like it will slip off your wrist. There's a display on the front that shows you steps taken, distance traveled, and calories burnt. The accuracy of these readings, as with most fitness bands, should be taken with a grain of salt. It once told me I had taken 400 steps while lazing around on the couch. If you pair it with a smartphone using the Yoke app, you can also get notifications delivered to your band. The notifications for messages, social messages, and emails, etc. are pretty useless in our opinion. All they show is the icon and the number of messages received. Without any preview of the message received, I might as well be just checking my phone. The Yoke app itself is quite nicely organized with detailed graphs and info, but is rather dated looking. For rupees 2,000, this isn't a bad fitness band, if you can give it some leeway with its measurements.
Gizmos, my name is Gaurav Preti, and in our gaming segment this week, we review Firewatch.
So what's wrong with you?
Excuse me?
People take this job to get away from something. So what's wrong?
What's wrong with you?
That's a great idea. Go ahead.
Look, I just hiked for 2 days, so I don't really follow whatever it is you're doing right now.
You take a stab at what's wrong with me.
Fine, then can I sleep forever?
Sure, buddy. Okay, now go ahead.
That conversation takes place early on in Firewatch, and that opening pretty much gives you an idea of what's to come. Firewatch tells the story of Henry, and let's just say things haven't been going so great in Henry's life. He takes a job as a fire lookout in the wilderness to get away from his life in Boulder, Colorado.
What's in this cave down here?
NFS tells people not to go too far in there. It's pretty dangerous. The isolation gets to people. I don't talk to the other lookouts as much as I talk to you.
The conversation we heard at the beginning sets up Henry's only other companion in the game, Delilah.
Good morning, Henry. Well, I guess good afternoon. You probably slept like a rock. Anyway, there's still a few hours of daylight to get some work in. I can see you at your desk, so call me when you're ready.
Much of the game is spent talking to her on the other side of a two-way radio, and while that sounds like it may be limiting, the developers have managed to extract quite a bit of emotion for seemingly routine exchanges between two people. Needless to say, the voice work here is beyond impressive. Each spoken line conveys emotion and seems like real conversations. The writing here is top-notch too. Right from the written word intro to every line the characters speak. Each line has been given the importance and time a script like this needs.
People just stuff these things with old food? That's how you get bears.
Those boxes are bear-proof. I wouldn't worry about it.
The game's visuals are also top-notch. The wilderness is bathed in harsh contrasts with orange hues that highlight the vastness of the space. Any other characters that show up in the game are also shown as stark silhouettes that act as a counterpoint to the game's otherwise beautiful presentation. Having Delilah as your vocal companion means that you share discoveries and odd sightings with her, placing you in the world even more.
This vista is incredible.
Which one?
Down the hill from my tower. There's a canyon and then the rest of, well, everything.
There are plenty of gorgeous vistas throughout your journey too. The sounds in the game are also expertly handled, from the ambience of a bar in the opening to the sickening thud as your head hits the ground from an attack to the forest ambience. Every soundscape is detailed. Absent, besides a few musical cues here and there, but the few times it does show up fits the mood perfectly. Overall, Firewatch explores what it means to be human, what it means to have guilt, and the consequences that it may invite. It's an endlessly entertaining ride from start to finish.
Alright, time to see what's making news in the world of technology. It's time for Tech News. Samsung's next generation flagship phones S7 and S7 Edge will go live for pre-order the same day that the South Korean tech major launches them, which is February 21st, at least in Netherlands, according to a report. The report adds that Samsung will also throw in a free Gear VR headset with the package, should buyers pre-order either of the two phones between February 21st and March 10th. The phones will go on sale starting from March 11th, says the report. Qualcomm has announced a new processor called the Snapdragon 2100, which is solely meant for wearable devices. Qualcomm calls this the Snapdragon Wear platform. Most wearable, particularly Android Wear-based smartwatches, are based on a dual-core version of Qualcomm Snapdragon 400 processor, which was released way back in 2014. So this marks the first time that the silicon maker has made something from the ground up for wearables. In the other news, Apple Music now has over 11 million subscribers. At the beginning of this year, Apple Music had surpassed 10 million subscribers according to a report from Financial Times. Now, Apple SVP Eddie Q has confirmed this figure. In fact, he gave a more precise number. The company has just passed over 11 million subscribers, he says. And Google will shut down Picasa this spring. Google announced earlier today in a blog post that it will stop supporting its Picasa photo storage service this spring. Starting in March, the company will shutter the Picasa desktop app, and in May, Picasa web albums will no longer be editable. Alright, that's all we have for you in this week's episode. We'll see you next week with more of Gadgets and Gizmos.